Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 63, I think it is, almost at 53 of Pocket Edition. My name is Sully. Welcome to the first Pocket Edition to have our faces. We're finally attaching our faces to our opinions, and today, this is Count, this is not Mark, whose face you're seeing, so welcome,
No
Count.
way. No, you don't say.
No,
It is not Mark.
Well,
Mark
I mean,
has not suddenly grown a beard.
for those that don't watch the news, GC Informer though, Count, we've never had faces on our podcast, so
True.
before we start jumping into what we've been up to, Count, this episode we've got a bit of a hardware roundup, being the PS5 specs that were delivered to us by the man himself, Mark Cerny. And we're also doing the Xbox One S discless, also known as the all-digital Xbox. So we're going to be discussing those two pieces of hardware news. But first, Count, what have you been up to? You've just come back from the post office, so what did you get?
I've just been to the post office. It was amazing. I picked up my copy of the new album by Allegiant on vinyl. I got one of the limited sort of copies. It's a clearish grey with a black splatter, and looks pretty sweet. And then when I came back, I had another vinyl delivery, which was the album by Alien Weaponry that came out last year. That's the band who's singing Maori.
That sounds ridiculous, just the name alone.
Oh, it's great. They sing in Maori, and they're great.
Wow, okay.
They're from New Zealand.
That's interesting.
Go
I'll have
listen
to, just check that out of curiosity. It actually sounds pretty cool. What was the orange one you got? I saw it pop up on Twitter or somewhere the other day.
It's a band called, I'm going to pronounce it Sludge, but it's spelt SLUGDGE, so Sludge.
Okay, it doesn't exactly roll off the tongue.
And they sing almost exclusively about slugs or other mollusk kind of creatures.
Reminds me of the band, I think they're called The Beards.
Yes, I love The Beards, they're great.
Actually,
they broke up though.
Oh,
it's disappointing.
Okay, that sucks. Oh,
yeah.
Been up to anything else? It's been a while since we chatted.
I think so, yeah. I'm still going through Pokemon Heart Gold.
Yeah.
I've just beat the 7th gym. Which is... Oh, I don't remember his name, but it's the ice one.
Okay.
So I've just done Team Rocket, just done the 7th gym. My team's okay, it's pretty decent. I've got Typhlosion, I've got an Espeon, got Crobat going on as well. Crobat's pretty beastly. Got an Ampharos, got the shiny Gyarados, which I'm actually bothering to train up for a change, because it learns Ice Fang at level 32, which is especially useful in the last gym. And I've also got the token Onyx in my team, which is just there. It's not really doing anything.
Yeah, nice. I haven't progressed much with mine. Mostly because most of my Game Boy gaming time happens to take place at night time, and as you know, there's no backlight on the freaking color. So I did kind of figure out a workaround though. I bought a little clip-on, not for the Game Boy, it's a little desk LED lamp, which is just powered by USB.
Yeah, you use them for books or whatever else, don't you?
Yeah. So I've clipped that to the back of my bed head, and I can now just sit in bed and actually just kind of... it's kind of really weird because I angle this thing down over my head via this huge... You know those bendy USB kind of necks?
Yeah.
So I angle it down via that, and I've just got this LED just draping over my shoulder onto the Game Boy screen. So now that I've got that and I can play, I'll send you a photo later. It's great. It's quite a little setup. I'm quite happy with it. It was $14. I'm like, yeah, this will work until I get the proper backlight mod in. So... I
used to have something similar for books. I think I had literally a sort of exactly the kind of thing you have, but it's a battery light. And I think I blue tacked it to the wall and just had it draping down.
Yeah.
It works.
Yeah, it works. It works. I'll send you a photo. You'll be like, yeah, kudos. So, but other than that, gaming-wise, I installed StarCraft 2 again. So that's what I've been playing. Ooh. Holy fuck, that game is nerve-wracking. I've forgotten. Like, it frays my nerves, man. Like, I love it, but I did all of my 5 placement games yesterday just to get ranked, and I was just trying to brush up because I'm going to play with a buddy. We're just going to verse each other. But I thought, you know what, I'll brush up. So I wasn't even taking it too seriously, these placement games. But like, when you get into it and you commit, I tell you what, I won 3 out of 5, which is pretty good. But even the games that I won, like, you know when you get those, like, you're coming down from that, like, adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good adrenaline rush, though. It felt like I had frayed nerves version of adrenaline rush. Like, I felt really, like, edgy and anxious.
Shivering in the corner, just like,
yeah, it was like some kind of bad come down. And I was just, like, I enjoyed it, but, and I'm going to keep going with it. But at the same time, I'm not looking forward to that feeling again. So it's a really weird, it's a strange phenomenon. Like, I can't describe it. So I'm sure people that are into real-time strategy kind of understand, like, that fraying of the nerve sensation after you've played. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've been up to. But Count, let's jump into the PS5 specs. So Mark's,
get on to the meat and potatoes.
The meat and potatoes, because we waffle on for donkeys. We could have a whole episode where we just waffle on about shit we've been doing. Like buying laser discs.
I'm sure no one would listen
TVs.
to it.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. Maybe Joe Chip would if we start talking about records and tube TVs and all that shit. But anywho, so Mark Cerny, the lead architect and designer for the PlayStation, I believe that's his rough title count. Basically, the man behind the hardware, essentially, has gone on record and shared with us some pretty, as you would say, meat and potatoes of the PlayStation 5. And this came out about a week ago, so we were a little bit late to the punch, but we thought we'd discuss this along with the Xbox One S discless, because it's pretty significant news in terms of the console space. But just to fire off those specifications at you guys again, we have an 8-core AMD based on Ryzen architecture. It's running, or will be sporting, a custom version of Radeon's Navi line, or Navi, I'm not sure how that's pronounced. It honestly doesn't mean a whole lot to me personally. I'm not really up to snuff with all that kind of stuff, and you know, it's sporting the usual buzzwords of ray tracing, which Mark Cerny stated that it will also apparently be applicable to improving the audio for the PS5 as well, with 3D audio. I can already feel the buzz terminology of this next iteration of consoles.
I did a vague description of that.
It's interesting.
In the news video.
It is very interesting. We're talking about cross-gen game releases. So I think the end of 360 and beginning of Xbox One generation in terms of how you'd see cross-gen titles like Destiny and all that kind of stuff. So that's not really noteworthy, to be honest. It's just kind of a general ticking of the box.
Breath of the Wild was released on Wii U if you hated yourself.
I actually thought about almost getting that, because at the time it was a lot cheaper to get a second hand Wii U.
I didn't have a Switch, and I was like, I really want Breath of the Wild, and then I heard that it runs like arse.
It's the frame rate just takes a shit.
Nah.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty much.
Also, this is the big one though for the PlayStation: backwards compatibility. And they were a little bit vague on this beyond that, just stating that it would be sharing similar architecture with the PS4, which I'm assuming that similar architecture is just PC-based architecture. I'm sure that's probably what they meant by that. So that's a very refreshing tick of the box for PlayStation. Backwards compatibility, finally getting on the bandwagon. And I'm not going to kick them too much because they kind of dug themselves a hole with PS3 in terms of the unique architecture of that one. It was always probably going to be more challenging than putting something like the 360 games on the Xbox One. PSVR supported.
Yes, they are continuing PSVR. There was something very specific. They go, we're continuing to value VR. It's an important part of our business and innovation and whatever.
I thought it would have been nice to dive a little bit more deeper into that. I mean, I know Mark Cerny isn't a developer. He's just speaking from a hardware perspective, but is much really happening in the PSVR space for PlayStation at the moment? Because it doesn't feel like it.
Nothing major has come out for PSVR that I'm aware of. I know there's a lot of stuff coming out for VR headsets in general. Like, there's things like, at the moment it's Steam Early Access, there's a thing called Blade and Sorcery, which I have bought but not yet played, and it's basically really ramping up how good melee combat can be in VR. So think of things like that. So VR itself is definitely getting innovative games, because that's actually a game, not just an experience. But like specifically PSVR, I don't know if they're doing much specific at the moment.
It's interesting because I don't really think. I don't know. Like, I feel like it's not a hardware limitation for the current PSVR. We've seen games like Skyrim. Was it the HTC Vive that had Skyrim, or was it also the PlayStation version that had Skyrim as well? I feel like it might have been the console version as well for PlayStation. Take that with a pinch of salt. Go search it up for yourself. But anyway, back to my point was I feel like it would have been nice to just get a little bit more clarification on what the hardware is actually doing. Like, it's great that it's being supported.
Yeah, like,
but
are they updating it at all, or are they like making a new version? Because I know that the current PSVR headsets are going to be supported with the new console, they've said. So you won't have to buy a new headset if you don't want one.
That honestly doesn't mean much to me, though. I mean, look at the Kinect, how they stressed that was going to be like crucial to the Xbox going forward. Remember the PlayStation 3 Move as well? I mean, granted, it is still present, but it's not really revolutionary
with the VR.
Yeah. So but it's not really doing much. So like, it's great that it's supported, but it would be, I don't know, it's not Mark Cerny's position to just start blabbing about the PSVR and the support it's getting in terms of like games. He's just sharing hardware specifics. Nothing on him in regards to that. I just want to know what's happening with the PSVR moving forward.
Yeah,
so that was my takeaway.
Some more information on that, definitely.
Yeah. A few more, just a couple more bullet points real quick, Count, before you fire off. Not all digital. They did stress that. So that's a definite slap to the face of Microsoft.
That there's going to be discs, which means that the game retailers will actually be happy to sell the consoles still.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say there will be disc systems from both going forward, or at least the option. Microsoft's just shitting consoles out everywhere, so one of them will have a disc drive.
Especially based on the, spoiler alert, the reaction to the discless Xbox One. I think that the disc as a console thing isn't going anywhere anytime soon.
No, I have a lot to say on that, so we'll get to that soon. Last two bullet points though. Price is unknown, other than it should. I think he said it will appease gamers or something along those lines.
I'm going to say price point will be around between £300 and £400, which should be no more than 500 AED.
Yeah, I feel like it might even go for somewhere between what the PS4 launched for and what the Xbox One launched for with a Kinect. Somewhere between that $100 price difference. Because
what did they sell for initially?
I can't remember the US price. God, what was the AUD price? I think PlayStation was $399, was it? USD?
That's surprisingly cheap.
Might have been $499 and the Xbox might have been $599 USD. I know there was a $100 price difference and that came down to the Kinect.
Bloody hell.
I know, it's so long ago. And of course, we have no release date. But no. I wouldn't imagine we're going to see it absolute earliest, maybe Christmas next year.
I would say, 2020 is going to be probably the release date. They're saying that there'll probably be more information on it at E3, and we apparently know. Well, it's rumored that the next generation Xbox is going to be announced at E3 this year, thanks to a few recent leaks. But yeah, I wouldn't expect anything this year other than sort of vague specifications, and maybe a pre-order.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think reveal will probably happen next year. And I mean, in terms of an Xbox reveal this year either, like they've said they're bringing new hardware, but that could be anything for Microsoft these days. Like they're working on so many different consoles. It could just be the true Scarlet box that they're willing to show off now, and then they're gonna release
the Xbox 1.5.
Yeah, and then they'll release the proper successor to the Xbox One X next year, like the one with all the bells and whistles. So who knows? One thing that I did accidentally glaze over, which is super cool, is SSD hard drive will be present in the PS5.
Yes.
So
You say it's super cool. It's super should have happened ages ago.
Yeah, I know. See, it would have been great. Let's just be grateful that we are capable of putting SSDs in for starters. Because back in the day, they'd never let you tamper with that shit.
Well,
it would have been nice, but like...
I'm not grateful that they put these in.
I mean...
At this point, it's expected, surely.
The thing is, though, this is kind of where the price could radically increase for me. You know, we're moving into like a more and more digital future where, you know, even if you buy a disc, you're always having to download content onto your hard drive, right? And SSDs are pretty expensive in terms of increasing in capacity. You know, it's not like a standard hard drive where you can get like 3 terabytes relatively inexpensively. So this to me is kind of the balancing of that price point. Like, how big do you go with the SSD? And in 2 years' time, or even 12 months' time, will they have decreased in price enough to get something of significant size into the next PlayStation? Or will it have to come with another standard hard drive or some kind of hybrid drive?
I don't think so. Hybrid drives would be a pain in the ass to work with anyway. But like, even the Switch runs on an SSD. It's a tiny one, admittedly, but it's an SSD. So I think at some point that SSDs are a lot cheaper than they used to be, admittedly, but it's a question of how big they're going to make it, because I know this is consumer pricing, so it's going to be different for them, but 2 terabyte SSD, you're looking at around, you know, between 150 and 250 pounds, depending on how good that SSD is. So it depends really how much the console's going to cost as to how much they're willing to put into there. Exactly. But I would expect... I can't rightfully expect them to put anything less than a terabyte in. And even then, a terabyte is not a huge amount anymore. So they need to... If they're putting an SSD in, they do need to back it up with the storage capacity as well, because it's all well and good having this fast transfer rate, but doesn't mean anything if you bugger all on it.
Not if they're only giving you 250 gigabytes or something. So
no, exactly.
I think that is the real balancing point in terms of, for me, just, you know, obviously, you know, the GPU is not going to be cheap, the CPU is not going to be cheap, but you know, you look at how like kind of SSD prices just ramp up in terms of size. Like, unless they've sourced some kind of like really sweet manufacturing deal, like I feel like that's the point. Well, that's the contention
point.
They've
sourced something, because it's apparently going to be a bespoke SSD, so it's going to be something that they're either developing in-house or they're developing through someone else.
Yeah, right. I would not put it past them to do something themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's Sony. They're a big company, you know. They've got about 20 different arms as like outside of gaming, so it's certainly not beyond the bounds of reason for them to come up with an SSD themselves.
Well, yeah, look at the Blu-ray and the PS3. Like, they, you know, R&D'd that and dumped that in.
Most of the reason people bought a PS3 was because it was a cheap Blu-ray player.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that was half the reason I actually bought one, if I remember rightly, is because I bought a Blu-ray and I didn't have anything to play it on.
Yeah. Do the GPU and CPU mean much to you, or just kind of like, I can appreciate them in terms of where they fall in terms of the current scales, but
so CPU is built on the Ryzen architecture, which is the same architecture as,
which is pretty good.
Yeah, it's the same architecture as my CPU and my PC. Going to be a completely different chipset, but it's 3rd generation Ryzen, which is actually, I think, the next generation up from my PC's PC CPU. It's going to be a bespoke chipset, so it's going to be doing its own thing. It's not exactly going to be one that's just ripped out of a computer or anything like that. GPU Radeon Navi family. They're pretty decent. They're certainly not bad cards by any means. I suspect they're doing that because they've got a deal with AMD on the whole thing, so obviously they're not going to go with an NVIDIA chip on the graphics.
I don't think we've had an NVIDIA chip.
I'd like to see one, just out of interest, but...
I think it's just the price point of like Nvidia products, isn't it?
Can be.
I don't think, have we had an Xbox or a PlayStation on an Nvidia line anything?
No, but I'd like one.
Yeah, it would be interesting.
Yeah, I can't remember what the Switch runs, but
I'm sure they've fucked around with them during the R&D processes along the way.
Yeah.
That would be cool to see. Oh man, how cool would a vid dock be?
The Switch runs on Nvidia architecture.
Well, that's the Tegra, which is exactly. It's literally a low-powered mobile chip. And that's going to be interesting where the Switch goes as well, because I think the Tegra line stops after the 3, doesn't it? Like, they discontinued it?
I think so. One interesting thing about that, we've had a little bit more information about the revisions of the Switch. So the cheaper version's coming later this year, and the upgraded version will be a bit later on. But they've also said it's going to be a minor upgrade, so don't expect a system overhaul.
I'm expecting something similar to what we saw with the 3DS XL New. Which was just an overclocking, bit more storage, and I think they tacked on like that little nub stick or something like that.
Oh yeah, I don't expect it to tack on any more controls though. That would be a bit odd, but
no, I think it'd just be an overclock, fix some of the cooling.
Slightly
issues.
Overclocked, fix the cooling, put a 64 gig internal storage, maybe a bit bigger. Don't know, depends.
Stop the dock scratching the switches, all that boring shit.
Well, I don't know if they'll do that. But, get a screen protector if you get a Switch, for the love of God.
Yes, I mean, could you see it, a little bit off topic, but we're not expecting it to jump to a Tegra 2 anytime soon. It doesn't sound like that would be a significant upgrade.
Yeah, that would be a significant jump, especially when they're saying this is going to be a minor jump. So,
interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect them to do anything big like that. But regarding back to the PS5, whatever, they're supporting 8K for resolution.
That was interesting.
That's future-proofing themselves. A lot of people are moaning about this, going, "Oh, they're supporting 8K. There's not even any 8K TVs on the market."
Well, there is.
They will be.
There is.
In about,
I can buy one right now.
Yeah, if you got like $5,000 to spend.
Yeah, I think it was like, no, it's 8,000 here in Australia, so
fuck.
It's $1 a pixel.
That's a no.
Samsung.
Unless
if you
want to be
that
spending thousands and thousands and thousands, you're not going to get an 8K TV now.
Yeah.
But in about 5 years, this console will have been out a few years. 8K TVs will be a lot lower in price. They'll be much more affordable. And people, if they didn't have this support in, people would be going, "Well, but why doesn't it support 8K?" So
now,
it's future-proofing themselves.
I think clarify a little bit. There's no way this thing's going to be playing games in 8K or rendering in 8K. Like, that's not going to happen.
It's not going to render them at a massive frame rate. No. I suspect there'll be a bit of a hit. It's a bit like the PS4 Pro. It can render in 4K, but it doesn't. But it sacrifices performance for it. What
we will see, I think, at best, is 4K native at a stretch. I think 4K native, and it'll upscale to 8K for gaming. But when it says support, I think it's probably more meaning media playback. And who knows what Blu-ray disc.
8K TV support, so it means it'll plug into an 8K TV and work.
There's no fucking way. No fucking way we're playing games in 8K, man. Not natively. It'll be 4K upscaled, best case scenario. So
8K gaming, expect that on PC first. Expect that probably in about 3 to 4 years.
Be a best case scenario again. Like that's a significant leap in terms of GPU and monitors. Like, monitors aren't really doing that much yet, let alone fucking TVs. The day that a console beats, TV manufacturers and GPUs to the punch, like, holy shit, like, you better watch out for Jesus' return, because, like, that's...
the end times are coming.
It's not going to happen. So, think 8K Blu-rays, 8K Netflix, best case scenario, I think, so... But I think that basically touches all the bases of Mark Cerny's
I
nuggets.
I think we've pretty much gone through that as well as we can do. We've been recording for nearly half an hour, so we should probably
I knew we should have split this one up. Oh well, let's crack on, like you said.
Yeah.
The Xbox One S, all digital edition, releasing, I believe, the date that comes to mind is May 9th. Will be retailing, has a recommended retail price of $249 USD and £199 for the UK. That is $50 cheaper than the recommended retail price for the current Xbox One S.
But the Xbox One S does frequently go on sale.
I actually checked, Count. It's currently available on GameStop for $249. So...
Yeah, that's fine. Admittedly, it's not always on sale, but it is frequently on sale.
Yes. So, Count, when I first heard about this, I was kind of in the boat of, great, another option. It's pro-choice, etc., etc. And I
I thought your choice had changed from negative to positive. Oh,
no, it's gone from positive to negative. And not
There's
radically. There's
not going to be a lot of contrasting opinions here.
I mean, my positive still stands, right? Like you still have the choice if you want it. For fuck knows what reason.
I'm gonna say it's a choice, but is it a choice that anyone really would want to make?
Not a well thought out choice by Microsoft. I'll give them that. At least it's a choice, though. So if you're dead set on having an all-digital future...
No, at least it's a choice.
At least it's a choice.
You have a choice to jump out my fucking window. I'm not going to do it.
No, but if for whatever reason, you can't find the disc tray version of the S on special, you could pick one up. And if you're consuming games digitally anyway, that's the only sugarcoating I can give this, right? That's probably not going to happen. At least it's an option if worst case scenario, right? The downside, like you said, Count, is the Xbox One S with the disc drive is almost always on special. Like it's always on special somewhere, whether it be Amazon, GameStop, Game in the UK, EB Games here in Australia. It's always on special. But to kind of list off some more of my negatives, and this isn't, these are more gripes rather than something that's going to detract from your experience. Why... I suspect I already know the answer to this, but why couldn't have they improved the form factor? Why couldn't we get the Xbox One S Slim Edition? Something to actually... Money. They didn't want to invest more into manufacturing costs and setting up pipelines for new manufacturing.
Why would you invest money into something that's probably going to fail anyway?
Well, I mean...
Why would they invest more money than they have to at this point?
If
it literally just looks like they've covered up the Xbox.
Oh, that's absolutely...
They've just covered up
the
identical,
disc tray. Dude, it's identical. It's absolutely identical. So, I mean, the only thing you can say is maybe the cooling's a little bit better. That's about it. Without the disc drive on the inside.
Even then, probably not.
I mean...
If you look at it, it's literally the same... They'll probably use exactly the same plastic mold and just not taken out the slot that they normally take out.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all they've changed in this.
The thing is, like, if they had radically reduced the form factor and actually made it look really appealing and smaller, like, I could see this selling if it had the right price point. That needs to be, like, guaranteed, right? So, like, an improved form factor would have been great. But it just really does feel like they've just ripped it out, covered it over, and I don't know what they're hoping to achieve from it. It almost feels like they're trying to test the waters. But in order for the waters to be tested for an all-digital path, you need to be able to guarantee that that console is going to be at retail cheaper than your other option. It's lacking a feature, and if you want to see if people are willing to try it out, it needs to be cheaper. And on top of that, it would have been incentivize people, like improve the form factor. And I mean, I can see why they didn't, because they didn't want to invest more money into a console that at best probably has 1 to 2 years of life left in it in terms of like real hard active support. So, I mean, that's disappointing. And then a little interesting side note, which I think is important if you have a large back catalogue of Xbox games, is the original Xbox and Xbox 360 games get really, really good backwards compatibility support for free. Now, you can download the games digitally at a cost off the store, but if you have the original discs, you just have to...
You put the disc in it puts it on your account. It's the best thing.
You redeem the game and you can download it for free. So if you have a huge back catalogue, you can't do that anymore. So, and even then, if I don't see why anybody would buy this right now, because it's probably going to be...
What you could do, you could go to your friend's house who has a
disc.
Taking Xbox One, log into your Xbox account on their Xbox, redeem all the games, and then go home and play them on your discless one.
Can you see Sony coming out again when Microsoft just releases Scala Box and just giving somebody a disc all over again to their friends? Just like the PS4 BM.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, like at the moment, when you look at this thing, probably retailing for the same price, unless retailers undercut the recommended retail price again by $50. At the moment, there's not a lot of reason to go out and buy this if it's retailing for probably roughly the same as one with the disc. But on top of that, which we already covered with the backwards compatibility, we're at the end of kind of this generation. There are bargain bins full of discs at every store.
Yeah. And at this, also on that front, who is going to be buying like a console, like a brand new console at this stage of the life cycle?
Yeah.
I don't understand who this is aimed at. Like it really confuses me, because if it's for people who are just getting into gaming, then why are you selling them something that's going to be obsolete in 2 years?
Well, that's it. Like, it needs to be a lot cheaper. So that's their entry point. It's a lot cheaper. But even at this price, if somebody's just getting into gaming, they want to experience all the titles that have just gone this generation. And the cheapest way to acquire them is from bargain bins, rather than buying from the digital storefronts where you're going to probably pay 3 times the price. I've seen fantastic titles going at EB Games here in Australia in bargain bins for, buy 3 for $40, and it's 30 AUD, that is. And we're talking like good quality titles. So I don't really understand this. I feel like Microsoft must surely be banking on the fact that retail will undercut their recommended retail price for this to succeed. But why not just offer a $199 retail price? If, like, I understand that they'd be selling it to the retailer cheaper, but like guarantee a better price point.
Yeah.
Because let's not forget, they have to be saving money on not putting a disk drive in. Even if it is only minimal, they have to be saving some money. So if you really want to test the waters for an all digital path, like, why would you not ensure that you give people the most incentive to go out and buy it?
See, here's the thing as well. I think retailers are going to be particularly cautious about stocking this one. Because for game retailers, their money doesn't come from selling consoles. They barely make anything from that. It also barely comes from selling games. It comes from selling pre-owned games, and it comes from your pre-orders. But if they're selling, what are they gaining from selling a console that doesn't take discs? Because they won't get pre-owned sales from the person who bought that console, because they can't take discs. And at most, they'll get some pre-orders and they'll get some codes, but barely anyone goes into a game shop and buys codes. And you don't get a code from a pre-order either, so there's not really much of an incentive for game retailers to be selling these consoles. So they really are gouging out their own marketplace here and going... Yeah. And they're really trying to selling this thing. They're really limiting who will actually want to push and sell it.
Yeah, like I said, I think Microsoft needed to do better with this one. I think the only thing that this could guarantee at retail is if suppliers stock it, they'll probably almost guarantee that the disc version isn't, at the same price point going forward. And that's I just can't, like you said, I can't see a lot of retailers really pushing this out the door. Like, I think they're going to be trying to maintain, like, if you're GameStop, like, you're already on your knees. You're not going to be trying to promote a console that's going to finish you off. Not at the moment, anyway. Like, I don't know. Have you got any closing thoughts, Counts? I think I've pretty much dribbled about this one enough. It's just, I think
it's only got 1 terabyte hard drive.
Oh, yeah,
that's a digital console. Digital only with 1 terabyte of space. What's the point?
Yeah.
You can't fit anything on that now. You could fit probably 3 or 4 of the big games, and that's your lot. Like, what was Red Dead 2's? I think it was like 250 gig or something ridiculous like that. So that's a quarter of your hard drive space taken up by one game. Nah. Don't buy this. It's not worth the money.
Yeah. It almost makes me wonder if this is less about testing the waters of the consumer and more about testing the waters of the retailers themselves.
Maybe going, what could we get away with trying to get them to sell?
Yeah. To know what's coming for whatever they have planned with their next iteration of consoles. Who knows? Yeah, like I said, I think it's a missed opportunity from a consumer perspective. I think we could have seen something that was like the redesign of the Xbox 360 when it went to, I think it was the 360e or something like that. And that form factor was quite a significant, nice, fresh change. It was a nice revision, and this just kind of feels like like you said, Count, we just photoshopped over the hole, and here you go. So, anywho, let us know what you think down below in the comments. We apologize for this being a huge one, but it's been a big week for console hardware, and that doesn't happen very often. So let us know what you think down below, particularly in regards to, I'd like to hear what you think regarding the SSD size for the PS5. That would be interesting to get your feedback on. PSVR, what you'd like from the PS5 in terms of PSVR support, what you want now in terms of PSVR. Are you still playing your PSVR? And let us know if this all digital Xbox floats your boat. What could Microsoft have done better? Perhaps they could have thrown in 12 months free of Game Pass or something like that, just to incentivize people. So let us know what you think down below. And if you enjoyed this video, please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. Be sure to check out the rest of the channel. There's heaps of content going up on a daily basis. But until episode 54, guys, have a good one.
Bye!